gives mandate on no sacred cows to new EFCC chairman.
The Fiscal Responsibility Act allows us to borrow more than 3% to GDP threshold to be able to manage a national emergency.
Federal government targets double-digit reduction in inflation rate.
We are not only interested in the tertiary institutions' collaboration.
National Agency for Science Engineering Infrastructure plans deployment of homegrown anti-crime prevention devices to states. Hello, good evening, and thanks for joining us on NTA Network News. We are live in Abuja. I'm Joseph Johnson. Hingino John Adams joins us from Lagos. President Muhammadu Buhari this Thursday held a strategic meeting with the newly appointed EFCC chairman Abdulrasheed Bawa with a mandate on no sacred cows in the anti-corruption campaign. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Interaction with the Senate. Thank you very much, Excellency.
This is the first formal engagement between President Muhammadu Buhari and the new EFCC chairman Abdulrasheed Bawa. The meeting is coming barely 24 hours after the confirmation of Bawa's appointment by the Senate in line with the provisions of the EFCC Act. The agenda of the meeting, held behind closed doors, was not made public, but NTA News gathered that a new helmsman of the anti-graft agency was in the State House to formally appreciate the president for the trust and confidence reposed in him. Mr. Bawa also used the opportunity to assure the president of his unshakable resolve to discharge his mandate conscientiously, without fear or favor, and with high sense of responsibility, patriotism, as well as accountability. The EFCC chairman did not speak to newsmen after his engagement with the president, but he was said to have promised the Nigerian leader that under his watch there will be no sacred cows in the fight against corruption. President Buhari congratulated the new appointee and assured him of every support and encouragement in the task of recovering the nation's assets from those who abused public trust, no matter their status. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, says with Nigeria's exit from recession, the major target of the federal government now is to bring down the rate of inflation to below double digits. Giving further details on the current state of the nation's economy, the minister said pushing the GDP growth far beyond the population growth is also a priority so that Nigerians can adequately feel the impact of all the government's genuine efforts at development. Again, State House correspondent Adamu Sambu has more.
Addressing newsmen at the maiden edition of the State House media briefing, Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed explained that Nigeria's exit from recession was largely on the back of non-oil growth, as well as the critical interventions by the federal government.
The National Assembly was very, very critical in this process, because without wasting any time, they were quickly able to pass an amendment to the MTAP and amendment to the budget. They were able to sit with us and review the economic sustainability plan and gave us the flexibility that we needed, including accommodations to incur deficits that was higher than the deficit that is defined in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Every country needed to do that, and in an exceptional circumstance, the Fiscal Responsibility Act allows us to borrow more than 3% to GDP threshold to be able to manage a national emergency.
The level of borrowings by Nigeria, she however insists, is neither high nor unreasonable as being insinuated in some quarters.
Our borrowing is still within healthy, sustainable limits. What we need to do is to concentrate on growing revenue, because we need to be able to roll out infrastructure now, not later, to be able to enhance the business environment and grow the economy at a pace faster than the rate at which we are growing now. If we say we will not borrow, and therefore we will not build rails and major infrastructure until our revenue rises enough, then we will regress as a country, we will be left behind, we won't be able to improve our business environment, and our economy will not grow.
She said by any term or description used, the Nigerian economy is already diversified, but efforts are still on to increase the size of investments and revenue that the non-oil sector yields to the economy.
There has been a 1 trillion naira infrastructure company that has just been approved and inaugurated by His Excellency the President. The InfraCo will finance public sector asset development, rehabilitation and reconstruction, as well as invest in cutting-edge infrastructure in roads, rail, power, as well as other key infrastructure. We will be hoping to have a Federal Executive Council approval to compel federal government agencies to buy made in Nigeria vehicles as much as is practical. We're hoping to also engage the state and encourage the states to take similar measures. It is important for us because we want to make sure the automotive industry survives and grows.
The minister also confirmed that though some federal government assets will be sold, the refineries are not part of those items to be so privatized, and the primary objective is not to finance the budget, but to bring those assets to economic use in the best interests of the country.
I must say that the change of the service chiefs that His Excellency the President has approved has reinvigorated the security space and provided new hope for the country, and we're already beginning to see the positive outcomes that this particular action that His Excellency the President has taken. Security is significant because it has an impact on agriculture, which is the mainstay of the economy.
The special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, said the State House briefing is organized to always keep Nigerians informed as the Buhari presidency sustained efforts at taking Nigeria to the next level.
Ministers and other top government functionaries will come in to explain what is happening to the Nigerian life.
The State House media briefing will be held weekly. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, a review meeting on illicit financial flows organized by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission in Abuja is seeking the removal of confidentiality clauses to enable anti-graft agencies and the public examine contracts awarded in the oil and gas sector. Joseph Orten tells us more.
Nigeria's economy is reported to be highly dependent on the oil and gas sector. Reports also indicate that the industry equally contributes 95% of illicit financial flows yearly. This, according to participants at this virtual meeting, weakens the country's ability to support its economic growth and provide social services to the citizens.
Every country looks forward to developing its economic aspirations by boosting trade and investment. However, it turns out that this very channel is also the channel for losses of revenue and capital.
Experts and resource persons identify undervalue and reporting of production as well as manipulation of contracts as the main avenue for illicit flows.
We are losing, according to NTA, $15 to $18 billion yearly. A lot of it on oil bunkering, 35%. But interestingly, commercial transactions with the international oil companies amounts to 60%.
When you have a culture of impunity, you can have the best legislation, you can have the best contracts. Some people will not comply with those provisions, and absolutely nothing will happen to them.
The forum is of the view that cross-border movement of funds through illegal activities will only be curtailed through building capacity of the country's contract negotiators to enable them identify hidden clauses and exposing contract deals for public scrutiny. In Abuja, Joseph Utsen, NTA News.
And with an increase in the use of ICT for financial transactions in Nigeria comes with the rise in incidences of cybercrime. To stem the tide, accountants in Nigeria are partnering with their counterparts around the world to control financial fraud and curb illicit financial flows in support of President Muhammadu Buhari's anti-corruption campaign. Nekaoko reports.
These are professional accountants committed to tackling corruption as financial watchdogs. Emerging from a recession, Nigeria is at a point where every kobo counts. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary to the ministry, pointed that the burdening pressure on the economy leaves government with no choice but to deliberately control costs while boosting revenue for the execution of policies.
Good ethical standards must be exhibited by all accountants at all times, either as professionals under public or private sector employment.
For accountants to be able to do the kind of gatekeeping that is expected of them by society, they should also be given the authority.
If we do not fight corruption, corruption will kill us.
Sometimes when a professional accountant uncovers a NOCLA, this happens to be corruption, unfortunately.
February 24th every year was unanimously adopted by the group as an anti-corruption day. The theme for this year is Fighting Corruption Requires Accountants to Act. In Abuja, Neka Uku, NTA News.
Let's turn to some of the other stories for you now. President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, has informed the international community that Nigeria's war against insecurity will soon be won and over. He was speaking when he granted audience, to the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Catriona Lang, where he explained that the change of service chiefs is one of the renewed measures by the federal government to address insecurity. Addressing some of the concerns raised by the High Commissioner, Senator Lawan stressed that the 9th National Assembly is leaving no stone unturned in ensuring the quick passage of critical bills, including the Electoral Amendment Act Bill and the Petroleum Industry Bill.
The change of service chiefs by Mr. President itself was significant and instructive, because to bring in a fresh set of people to head the services tells that story that we want to see an improvement in the way and manner we fight insurgency in Nigeria.
In the meantime, the House of Representatives has urged the Independent National Electoral Commission to restore 8 state constituencies in Oyo State, in line with the judgment of a federal high court. In a motion raised by Chairman House Committee on Information, Segun Odebumi, the lawmakers noted that the restoration would ensure the people of the affected areas in Oyo State exercise their right to representation.
From the day of judgment to date, no equal or superior court has set aside the court decision, which under reference.
The court judgment was passed in March 2013. Northern governors are in a 2-day meeting in Kaduna with issues of insecurity and the release of the abducted Kagara students topmost on their agenda. Muhammad Umar Ajinge reports that Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, is heading a high-powered federal government delegation to the summit.
The Northern Governors Forum begins a 2-day meeting here at the Government House Council chambers in Kaduna to deliberate on a number of issues bedeviling the region, ranging from the issue of insecurity as well as the phenomenon of Almajiri in the region, inclusion of youths in governance, and also making traditional rulers of the region to be at the forefront of preaching peaceful coexistence in their various communities.
It's no doubt that this kind of robust engagement provides a very important platform for deep reflection and dialogue on pertinent issues affecting not only northern Nigeria, but the nation as a whole.
That is why we have remained resolute in supporting and advising the federal government, collaborating with relevant security agencies, and also using opportunities at our disposal to work for a more secure nation.
Come up with possible solutions to all these problems. And we must continue to chat and continue to discuss more and more, never to give up.
Working with our respected traditional rulers, community and civic leaders, we need to accelerate efforts to avail our region of every chance to successfully engage the challenges and possibilities of the 21st century.
Besides discussions on ways of ending security challenges in the north, this meeting is expected to come up with ways of harnessing and turning around the economic potentials of the region to fully engage the youth. From the Government House Council Chambers, Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umrajinki.
The National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI, is advocating the deployment of technologies in tackling crimes and other security challenges in parts of the country. To this end, the agency is strengthening collaboration with state governments on how to explore homegrown technologies manufactured by the agency to contain insecurity. Aliyu Tijani Mohammed reports.
Established in 1992 with the mandate of manufacturing homegrown technologies using local content, National Agency for Science Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI, with several plants across the country, has so far produced helicopter, mechanical parts, hospital equipment, agricultural processing machines, solar panels, among others.
This transformer's actual manufacturing place is in our center in Okene. In fact, they just returned during the coronavirus, so we have capacity to produce to Nigeria.
It is now showcasing its products, restating the agency's commitment to manufacture technological tools that can aid in fighting crime and contain insecurity in the country. National state government indicated interest on homegrown technologies manufactured by NASENI as it strengthened partnership to develop science and technology.
I want to tell you that we are not only interested in the tertiary institutions' collaboration, but also in both the technical schools as well as the science schools' collaboration that we will have with you in order to encourage the area of education.
Already, NASENI signed a memorandum of understanding with the State University Kefi, with one of its plants also established in Nasarawa town to provide support for science and technical education. In Abuja, Aliyu Tijani Mohammed, NTA News.
Well, to stay with us here on NTA Network News, we have plenty more for you when we return. You're still watching NTA Network News with me, Joseph Johnson. Nigeria has welcomed the final report of the high-level panel on international financial accountability, transparency and integrity for achieving the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development in view of its positive recommendations.
Speaking at the launch of the final report, President Buhari, represented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, however, said given the bleak picture painted in the interim report and the confluence of challenges confronting the world in the era of the COVID-19, the country had expected stronger recommendations in some parts of the report. He said the nation considers this final report as reflective of the diversity of perspectives and the delicate views and priorities of different stakeholders on the subject of combating illicit financial flows and strengthening good practices on assets recovery and return to foster sustainable development.
The FACTI panel's final report. These recommendations, if implemented, have the potential to significantly reduce existing structures that make it impossible for countries to generate and retain a sizable chunk of their resources.
The minister said Nigeria also considers the report timely in the light of the international effort to mobilize resources. He said the government of Nigeria will cooperate with other member states in both advancing the content of the report.
I do apologize for the sudden end to that report. Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, says her office will continue to support Nigeria to realize the Sustainable Development Goals, especially goal number 16. The UN Deputy Secretary General stated this when she paid a courtesy visit to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. Kenneth Nanim reports.
Through the Sustainable Development Goal number 16, the United Nations intend to achieve peace, justice and build strong institutions by the year 2030. To achieve this vision, in Nigeria, the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed urged leaders at all levels to unite and brace to the challenges of insecurity and the impact of COVID-19 on institutional development globally.
When government is trying to deliver on its services, the rights of the people, the social contract, the institutions are really the bedrock on which this will exist. And
the SGF boss Mustafa commended Amina Mohammed for her leadership role at the global level, especially in the procurement of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine against COVID-19 for the country. He lauded President Muhammadu Buhari's initiative to establish the Economic Sustainability Plan and the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. These strategies, he explained, are responsible for the success recorded in economic recovery and to contain the spread of coronavirus.
And it is the combined effect of the robust national response of the COVID-19 Presidential Task Force and the Economic Sustainability Plan that has helped Nigeria and aided Nigeria to exit recession within such a very short time after having recorded negative growth in 2 quarters.
The SGF also urges Nigerians to disregard all sorts of conspiracy theories about COVID-19 vaccines and accept them when they finally arrive at the shores of the nation. Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
In another development, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations Amina Mohammed has tasked relevant agencies of government to fast-track platforms and opportunities to aid Nigeria's speedy recovery from the economic impact of COVID-19. She gave the mandate during a visit to the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment in Abuja. Benny Adams reports.
The nation has its hand on the recovery gear. For economies to recover fast, the United Nations says efforts at ensuring availability and equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines must be intensified.
That is the beginning of the end of COVID.
The visiting UN envoy commended Nigeria's response to the pandemic and advocates diversification of the various stimulus packages.
It starts from the energy mix, but it goes through industry, connectivity, the jobs and skills that our youth and women will need to acquire.
In a warm homecoming reception accorded the UN envoy, the Ministers of Industry, Trade and Investment heartily relayed the ministry's plan to present to Nigerians a comprehensive investment policy document that will, among other things, promote exports of finished goods rather than raw materials.
We are working to see to that a lot of manufacturing goes on, such that export of manufactured goods will bring in the much needed foreign exchange.
All parties are unanimous on the fact that the country is on the right path to development. Benny Adams, NTA News.
The new Executive Council members of the Association of Non-Interest Financial Institutions Association of Nigeria have been tasked to work with development partners to promote financial inclusion in the country. Chairman Board of Trustees of the association, Babayo Seidu, stated this at a meeting in Abuja. Musa Abubakar reports.
Names were presented.
It's the end of two-year term for the old Executive Council members of the Non-Interest Financial Institutions Association of Nigeria, and a beginning for these new elected officials who will steer the activities of the association hereon.
And I shall uphold the Constitution and the bylaws.
The extraordinary meeting offered a platform for members and the new executives to deliberate on the progress made and what need to be done to further promote and strengthen non-interest finance as well as financial inclusion in the country.
Encourage financial inclusion that will accumulate into an economic growth. That's what we are doing. 4 or 5 years ago, we were having just one sukuk. Today, the national and subnational sukuk is in excess of 300 billion.
Ensuring that we deliver value to the society, bringing many of those who are
outside the financial net to come into the financial system, also providing support to governments, whether at the federal or at state level, to work on infrastructure.
The association hoped to make Nigeria a known-interest financial hub capable of driving growth and development of the country and continent. In Abuja, I am Musa Abubakar, NTA News.
And as we turn our attention to business, court strikes out case instituted by directors of Oando against Securities and Exchange Commission. This and more with my colleague Chumobi Walter Naji on the business desk. Chumobi.
Thank you, Joseph. Carry on. All right. The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has struck out 3 cases filed by Oando PLC and some of its directors against the Securities and Exchange Commission for lack of jurisdiction. The court struck out the cases in a judgment delivered by Justice F.O.G. Ogunbanjo. The cases were instituted against the Commission in view of the enforcement action taken against the company and the affected directors in its letter dated May 31st, 2019. The affected directors, according to the SSEC letter dated 31st of May 2019, had violated the Commission's Code of Corporate Governance, the provisions of the Investment and Securities Act 2007, and the SEC rules and regulations. Oando PLC and the 3 directors had prayed the court to hold that their fundamental human rights were violated because, according to them, the SEC did not give them fair hearing in investigating some petitions received by the SEC in 2017 from some stakeholders and shareholders of the Oando PLC. The court, however, in delivering its judgment, struck out the 3 cases and ruled that the Federal High Court cannot assume jurisdiction to entertain a matter where the subject matter falls outside its jurisdiction under the guise of enforcing fundamental human rights. And now to the capital market, where investors lose 65.83 billion naira as NFC All-Share Index dips by 0.31% amid renewed sell pressure, closing at 40,095.49 basis points as against 0.14% appreciation recorded previously. Its year-to-date returns currently stands at minus 0.44%. However, market capitalization has dropped to 20.97 trillion naira as at close of transactions today. Market turnover closed negative as volume moved down by 30.56% as against 38.94% uptick recorded in the previous session. Transcorp, Dangote Sugar and UBA were the most active to boost market turnover. Meanwhile, Zenith Bank and Dangote Sugar topped market value list, and that's the business news. I want to thank you very much for joining us. Joseph?
Yeah, thank you, Chumobi Walter Naji. Now, calls for national development and cohesion rather than ethnic politics and rivalry are getting louder as Nigeria continues to battle the challenge of tribal war, compounded by the spread of fake news. The Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, and a former High Commissioner to Canada both lent their voices to the call at the 4th Annual Awards and Lecture of Asset Newspapers Limited, urging Nigerians to be more involved in bridging the gap created by ethnicity. David Ire reports.
The appeal came following increase in ethnic tension across the country, while divisive tendencies are becoming more critical by the day. Only messages of unity and peaceful coexistence, speakers at the award ceremony say, can create that atmosphere that will fast-track the development of the nation, just as the publisher of Daily Asset newspaper is taking advantage of this 4th annual award ceremony to douse ethnic tension.
We want to provide a forum where we can extend the conversation, we can extend the dialogue, we can extend the discourse, believing and hoping that at the end of it, we shall have new ideas, fresh perspectives that will be able to address some of the challenges we are facing as a nation.
For the guest lecturer, Professor Iwes Hai, And the Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, who received the award as the Public Servant of the Year, only a collective effort can address the wide gap already created by ethnic and religious differences.
We need to strengthen and invigorate state institutions to guarantee justice, freedom, and equity.
First of all, we have to start thinking differently, right? We have to start thinking Nigeria. Once we think Nigeria, right, we'll be putting Nigeria first. And once we put Nigeria first, we'll be doing things differently.
I also have deep interest in access to quality education, particularly to promote girl-child education.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, was honored as the Man of the Year, while the wife of Benue State Governor, Dr. Eunice Otom, received the First Lady Award of the Year. They were among outstanding personalities honored for their contributions to national development. In Abuja, David Ire, NTA News.
Let's just tell you that the 5 million homes solar installation plan under the Economic Sustainability Plan will be a game changer in the renewable energy space. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this Thursday at the virtual engagement with stakeholders involved in the implementation of the Solar Power in Niger initiative, designed to boost ongoing efforts to fix Nigeria's energy supply challenge. The initiative will also generate significant employment through the development of local capacities for the manufacture and maintenance of solar components and equipment. A release by Laolu Okonde, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President, stated that under the arrangement, the Rural Electrification Agency will drive the implementation, while private companies will install and manage the home systems, drawing fundings from a low-cost loan facility from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Adebayo community in Ovia South local government area of Edo State is the latest beneficiary of government power expansion initiatives in rural communities. This follows the inauguration of a 100 kilowatt solar hybrid panel built by the Rural Electrification Agency in that community. Dennis Temple reports that the community is hopeful that the coming of electricity to their locality will address post-harvest losses and improve their economic status.
Predominantly agrarian community, the people say they have suffered post-harvest losses over the years due to lack of electricity for preservation of crop yields. They are optimistic that with the coming of light, their economic fortune will improve.
The comparison is wide. The difference is clear. So we are enjoying the light.
The business is they go to small. Thank God. If I were.
This, the federal government said, is another effort to bridge the gap in the energy sector.
He has told us, if he didn't come in there, that already they have supplied to 500 homes. There's a room provision for another 200 homes. So that's expansion. If we consume all of that and there's need for extra and we've made money, why not? Another one, there has been an extension of that program. But first, let's satisfy and utilize, maximize what we have, which is what they are doing. For now, it's not maximized yet.
There's provision for maintenance from the bills they pay. So I'm very sure they are going to get 24 hours electricity.
For us, anywhere we believe that there's high investment. So the issue of security there is paramount. So for us, we protect it so that the people sort of begin to see how we can make our rural becoming gravitating towards urban.
The Rural Electrification Agency and the development partners said the project they have embarked upon demonstrates federal government's resolve to improve energy infrastructure across Nigeria, urging the beneficiary to utilize the opportunity to improve their economy.
We are moving one community at a time. So we are moving along, we are making progress, and as the Honorable Minister of State mentioned, we are able to now see how we can take this sort of initiative to other neighboring communities as well.
Solar hybrid mini-grids such as this will provide greener option for rural electrification in Adebayo community in Ovia South local government area of Edo State. Dennis Temple, NTA News.
Well, let's just get more reports from Hingino in Lagos. Hingino.
Thank you, Joseph. As Nigeria awaits the arrival of the much-anticipated COVID-19 vaccines, stakeholders in the health sector are recommending a multi-sectorial approach in ensuring a sustainable solution to the fight against the pandemic. This was at a media briefing by the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria on the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccines in Nigeria. For the past 1 year, Nigeria and many other countries of the world have been battling to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. With the availability of pharmaceutical drugs and non-pharmaceutical measures adopted, vaccination is considered the most effective. For now, some countries have received the vaccines and commenced its administration, while Nigeria is about to take delivery of her first 16 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines. Although there are several conspiracy theories as regards its efficacy and safety, experts say it should be seen as a public health good.
The vaccine is to stimulate the body to produce the antibodies that will fight infection for us. So we should not lose our guard because the vaccines are coming. But it's a good thing that we have them.
Strengthening the nation's health system, aggressive public enlightenment, effective enforcement of the COVID-19 protocols, even as vaccination begins, and consideration of community pharmacies as vaccination centers are some of the recommendations by the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria.
This is the time to drastically work on improving and strengthening the health system and the infrastructure in Nigeria. Increased budgetary allocation to health is strongly recommended.
The Society is also advocating the passage of the Pharmacy Bill currently before the National Assembly to empower the sector. Away from COVID-19 now, rewarding creative minds of students with outstanding performances in the area of talent discovery is an avenue Cadbury Nigeria PLC has adopted to encourage learning among primary school pupils. The Born Factor School Talent Competition second edition had entries from many schools, with 3 selected for cash prizes. Abolade Salami reports.
Cadbury Nigerian PLC, the producer of Bonvita, the vitality drink, rich in 17 vitamins and minerals for everyday healthy living, is out again to put smiles on the faces of pupils and schools for creative performance in arts, music, dance, and other creative works. The idea, which is born out of the need to contribute to educational development and the discovery of talents among young ones, also provides an opportunity for orphanage homes selected by the schools to share in the celebration.
And the ingredients in Bonvita are for well-being for the child, and we felt that we need to touch children directly. They consume our products, and we need to just encourage them and their mental well-being. And we decided to design something that is good for them both in classroom and outside of classroom. Born Factor essentially looks at outside of classroom and the talents that the child has.
The prize presentation, categorized into 3 sections, had the school with the overall points cutting away the sum of 3 million naira, while the school that came second clinched 2 million naira. 1 million naira was awarded to the 3rd position.
Irrespective of what you want to become in life, you can achieve that dream. Now, Bonvita is that brand that helps you achieve that dream. So for us, it's a way of, partnering with the kids and then giving them the assurance that with hard work, with you being healthy, there is no mountain you cannot climb.
The best 3 schools were selected after months of keen competition.
I think I'm happy that we are 3rd, and I'm immensely grateful to Cadbury, and that we promise to perform better this year, and we're going to put in our best, really.
Management of Cadbury Nigerian PLC said the Born Factor School Talent Competition will be used as a vehicle to develop talents at their prime. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
We now take a break. The news continues after that.
This is NTA Network News, and we are back in Abuja. Governors of the 19 northern states have concluded their meeting in Kaduna with a resolve to work in synergy with security agencies for the safety of all schools within the region. Muhammad Umar Ajenge reports that the forum also agreed to look into humanitarian challenges, stop intra- and inter-border porosity to check movement of criminal elements, and invest in rural areas to curb farmers-herders clashes. The forum resolved to look into the draft report for possible implementation, urging state governors to strengthen partnership with their colleagues in other parts of the country to entrench unity, tolerance and harmonious coexistence among Nigerians. Nigerians have been told to take advantage of these various justice sector reforms ongoing in the country in the last 6 years to ensure a more rapid development. The position was put forward at the public presentation of a book on contemporary issues in law in Nigeria. Femi Okewo has the story.
Written in honor of Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, the book, titled Contemporary Issues in Nigerian Law and Practice, is a 697-page compendium of various reforms and interventions instituted by the Justice Ministry under Abubakar Malami in the Buhari administration. Edited and compiled by Professor Mohammed Amadu, Dr. Umar Gwandu, and Nafiu Yakubu, there are issues that guests at the public presentation of the book say have impacted positively on Nigeria's political, economic, and legal development.
This patriot has also helped to deliver our nation from monumental damages arising from the inter-ocean oil contract. His resilience has equally relieved Nigeria from a $1.5 billion liability and gained over $660 million in arbitration costs in the dispute with inter-ocean oil companies.
There are other issues that have witnessed reforms, including strengthening of the rule of law, prosecution of high-profile cases, and also corruption-related cases.
This gives me optimism in the need to continue to advocate the maintenance of the corporate, unitary, and peaceful existence of Nigeria as a strong and virile nation.
In Abuja, Femi Okewo, NTA News.
Now, drug abusers are in for a tough time. This is because the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is involving the larger society to aid the fight against illicit drug use and trafficking in the country. Through its newly inaugurated Special Purpose Committee, Abdul Malik Hassan reports.
A special privilege to inaugurate this august body to be known as the Special Purpose Committee of the NDLEA.
These are members of the Special Purpose Committee. They are selected from different groups in the society to include the academia, members of civil society organizations in drugs rehabilitation, medical doctors, youth and traditional rulers, among others. The members are to engage in public policy discourse and implementation on drugs, in addition to coming up with suggestions that will aid in the fight against illicit drugs use and trafficking.
But this is the first time the NDLEA itself is stepping out to harness the resources that abound in this country to support this fight. With your membership coming entirely from outside the agency, you will be our think tank.
Attributing criminal activities bedeviling some parts of Nigeria to drug use, chairman of NDLEA says all hands must be on deck to rid the country of the menace. Guests described the constitution of the committee as a major milestone towards achieving a drug-free society, urging those engaged in illegal acts to refrain. In Abuja, Abdul Malik Hassan, NTA News.
Changing the face of Bauchi State and the fortune of the people, according to Governor Bala Mohammed, is the cardinal focus of his administration. The governor was speaking at the groundbreaking for the construction of a 2.8-kilometer Yelwa roundabout to Inkil Road within Bauchi metropolis. Mahmoud Ibn Muhammad reports.
Do this groundbreaking ceremony to the glory of God and for the use of the people of Bauchi State.
The 2.8-kilometer Yelwa roundabout to Inkil by Gombe Road construction work is now the 31st embarked upon by Governor Bala Mohammed under his infrastructural development initiative.
I can see even from my visit here by the rousing welcome that the people are giving to him and to me as his guest speaks volumes. It tells me that this man is not only on ground, this man is walking.
Spread across the senatorial zones of the state, the projects are expected to open up the state and attract investors. In Bauchi, Mahmoud Ibn Muhammad, NTA News.
Amidst tears of grief, 7 Nigerian Air Force personnel who died in an air crash while on a mission have been laid to rest at the National Cemetery, Abuja. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Oladayo Amao, says their names will go down in history as defenders of the peace. Defense correspondent Najatu Tijani reports.
Such was the grief of those at the burial ground who came to pay their last respects to their loved ones lost in the fatal Nigerian Air Force air crash of 21st February 2021. In an emotional speech, the Chief of the Air Staff, himself a fighter pilot with more than 1,500 instructor flying hours, saluted what he called the supreme sacrifice of the 7 as well as all those who had gone before.
We must relentlessly expose and fight all agents of destabilization and extremism in our society.
No matter the pains and the sorrow, one thing for sure, that God's love never ceases.
The young men who were hailed as heroes were on surveillance missions in connection with the Kagara abductions and other security operations. They were all specially trained in air tactical observation systems. In the last few years, the Nigerian Air Force has dedicated itself to acquiring new platforms, reactivating previously unserviceable ones, and building the capacity of its personnel, especially pilots and technicians. And in the wake of this tragedy, the Nigerian Air Force says it has resolved to rededicate itself to the cause of defending the nation by ramping up security measures.
Let's bring you sports news now with Tamara Ibiwe.
Powerlifting